Hello Year 2, we're now moving on to completing our Lowry inspired composition, and the way we're going to do this is something called mixed media, okay? All that means is we're using more than just paint. So the paint's going to be kind of like our first layer, then we're going to do an extra layer over the top in pencil. So I'm going to demonstrate the paint layer. Now this is really important. You have to keep your paint watery. If you put your paint on really thick, you won't be able to see any of your pencil design in the background anymore. So we need to keep it really watery, and I'm going to show you how you do that. So with the lid of your watercolours, you're going to get your paintbrush, okay, and you're going to, in fact, I'll do this where you can see, you're going to get your brush and you're going to just start almost like you were using a teeny tiny spoon. You're going to use your brush to suck up some water, and then you're going to tap it into your lid. So you make a really watery puddle in your lid. Now you don't tip your water in because far too much will pour out. So we're just using the brush to make a little puddle. Now, in this Lowry painting, there's a kind of a creamy grey colour that is over a lot of the page. So to make my creamy grey colour, first of all, I'm going to need a lot of white pigment. So I activate my pigment with my brush and then I mix it into my lid. And I'm going to do this, I think, at least 6 times. So that's 2 times. Get some more pigment, add it to my watery little pool here. 3 times. 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Okay, so I've added quite a lot of white pigment to my little puddle here. Okay, so I'm going to just clean my brush off and I'm going to take a teensy bit of black. So literally just like a very little amount, and I'm going to add it to my puddle. Okay, and I've made my kind of sort of creamy grey. Now I'm actually going to water this down even more because I want this to be really watery. So same again, we're going to keep using the paintbrush like a little spoon, and it's sucking up a little bit of water and we're adding it to our puddle. Okay, so that's, oh my gosh, at least 10 more little splodges of water I've added. Okay, so there's my watery grey. Now this is what I'm going to do. See if you can follow along. Try your best. You can pause the video if you need to, but this is where I'm going to put this grey first of all. So to start with, I'm going to put it on my church here, like this. And I'm going to cover the whole church in grey. Now you can see, because my paint is so watery, I can still see all of my pencil lines. They're all still there. Okay, so there's my church. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this watery grey on, I'm going to do all of my street. I'm going to do the foreground of my street. So another term for what we're doing here is creating a background wash. Okay, so a background wash just means that we take a very watery, diluted colour, and we cover a large portion of the picture. So I'm going to do my street here. So you can see I keep going back to my watery grey that's in the lid. So I'm just building this up. Okay. And then I'm going to do the street here. Now, I'm going to give you a little tip. Whilst your street is still wet, you might want to just add, we're going to make a slightly darker version here. So I'm going to add a bit more black to this version. You see I've made a much darker version of that grey. Let's make that a little bit more watery. So, whilst the paint is still wet, you might want to just add a few little lines. So let's just add a line there. A line there. See, it's all very watery. I'm not using thick paint straight from the palette. I'm using a watered down version of the colour that I need. So let's put the darker grey along here. And then I'm going to do this part of the church is going to be slightly darker. Okay, and then I'm going to make the tower slightly darker here. Okay. Right now, I'm going to do all of the houses up to here. Okay, I'm not going to do the houses that are right in the foreground, because the ones in the foreground have red brick, but the ones in the background have this kind of creamy grey colour that we see in a lot of this artwork. So I'm doing all of these ones in the foreground, this creamy grey. Like you can see, I can still see all of my pencil lines because the paint that I'm putting on is really watery. Okay, so while this, oh, I've got some green in there. Whilst this area is still wet, I'm going to take my darker colour and I'm going to just put that at the front of the street down here because these houses show up a bit darker. So I'm going to blend that a little bit. So these first few houses here are going to be a bit darker. Okay. Right, there we go. A few other things I'm going to make sure I get a background wash on. Let's see. Now I think I'm gonna recreate this grey again because it's starting to run out. And like I say, the majority of the background of this painting is this kind of just whitish, creamy grey. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm using my brush like a spoon. I'm adding some water to the lid to make a little reservoir of water. And then I'm going to pick up some white pigment again. So here we go. 1. And I'm just going to, because I can see what's happening in my lid. You should always clean your lid before you begin. So I'm just going to make sure that green that was kind of working its way into my little puddle has gone. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then same as before, teeny bit of black. Okay, so there we go. I've got my creamy grey again. Could add a little bit more water to it. Okay, keep it really watery because we're going to use it now. Now, the idea in this picture is it's kind of a smoggy sky. So smoggy means smoky because all these factories at the time were blowing smoke out the chimneys from where they were burning fuels to power their machinery. Okay, right, now I'm going to make this a bit lighter. So I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to mix this here. So I'm going to make this a little bit lighter here. So I want a lighter grey than I've got already. So I'm making myself a bit of a lighter grey and I'm going to carry on with my lighter grey. I'm going to fill in the background here. So this background's kind of a slightly different shade. So at the moment, this picture's looking pretty grim. It's all very, very dark and grey. But that's fine because we are going to be adding details later with pencil. Okay, so like I say, this step is just the background wash. Okay, the background wash to block in a lot of these colours. Okay, and a similar thing with this this tower here. I'm going to take this kind of mid-tone grey and I'm going to add it to this little turret that sticks up over here. Okay. I'm going to take a lighter version here and I'm going to do the factory back here. And let's see, let's fill in that bit there. And then this smokestack here is kind of grey. It's all different kind of gloomy shades, this picture. Okay, now the two houses in the front are made with red brick, so I'm going to clear out my lid. Okay, this is what a good artist does at the end of every painting session. They clear out their lid. Okay, and I'm going to make a very watery red. Now, my water's gone a bit grey, but actually that's fine because the red pigment will overpower that. So don't worry if your water's grey. So I'm going to do the same thing again, like my imaginary spoon of paintbrush is getting added to the lid. So I'm making a little pool, about bigger than a quarter. Okay, bigger than the size of a quarter with water. Oh, it rhymes. So then I'm going to take this sort of orangey colour and I'm going to mix that in. And I think a bit of red. I think I've ever used this before. Oh, it's got blue on it. If you ever find that your paints are kind of corrupted with another colour, it's really straightforward. You just use a tissue and wipe off the colour that went over the top. Okay, so hopefully I've got red and not purple. Okay, let's get a bit more of this orange. So look, I've made this really watery kind of orange. And remember, the important thing is it's watery. It's not thick paint. And then I'm just going to make my wash over the top. Now, it doesn't matter that I'm going over the windows and over the doors because these are all going to get added to later with pencil. I've just taken a bit of white because I'm going to make a slightly lighter shade for the front of the house. Okay, and you can still see all of my pencil lines. It's all still visible through. And then the same with this house over here. I'm going to do this wash over the top. Hang on. Ooh. And make this kind of a red wash here. And again, don't worry if we're going over the doors and things. We're going to go back over this later with pencil. And I'm just a few little areas that I need to just pick up. So I'm going to go and just make a bit of a watery grey. And I'm just going to fill in this roof here, this chimney here, this roof here, and this chimney here. So what we've got now is the kind of the bare bones of the picture. This is something that when it's dry, we're going to work over the top of it and add in our details. But I will do that in the next video. So this is as far as you need to worry about getting for this session. And then I will show you how to do the next element, so the mixed media approach after that. Okay, thanks year 2. Bye-bye.